कृष्ण पृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी इति नामिने। नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैता गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंदा। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैता गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंदा। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैता गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंदा। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे, हरे रामा राम राम हरे हरे, हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे, हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे, हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे, हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। जय गुरुदेवा जय गुरुदेवा जय गुरुदेवा जय गुरुदेवा, जय प्रभुपदा जय प्रभुपदा जय जगद्गुरु श्रीला प्रभुपदा। निताय गौर हरि बोल, हरि बोल, हरि बोल, निताय गौर हरि बोल, हरि बोल। Hare Krishna, Dhanvat Pranam. Thank you all for joining. So we'll just start. Mataji, can you make me the host, please, so I can start sharing?
Mataji, you can share anyways.
Oh, I
I've
can.
given you the rights to share, Mataji.
Okay, okay. Thank you so
Yeah.
much. Hare Krishna.
Will you be able to handle the waiting room or should I wait?
I can handle it, Mataji. No problem.
Okay, then I'll make you host.
Yeah. Okay. श्री चैतन्य चरितामृता की जय, श्रीला कृष्णदास कविराज गोस्वामी की जय, श्रीला प्रभुपाद की जय। जय जय श्री चैतन्य जय नित्यानंद, जय अद्वैत चंद्र जय गौर भक्त वृंदा। जय जय श्री चैतन्य जय नित्यानंद, जय द्वैत चंद्र जय गौर भक्त वृंदा जय जय श्री चैतन्य जय नित्यानंदा जय द्वैत चंद्र जय गौर भक्त वृंदा. Hare Krishna. So we are on the 19th chapter of Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Lila, and very, very important section. We have to focus a lot on this section because we are hearing about the Bhakti Lata Beach, the creeper of devotion. What are the things that are going to help our creeper grow? And we are today going to read what are the things that are going to harm our creeper also. It is important to understand both because, like any creeper, there are some things that are going to be favorable for the growth of the plant, the creeper, and there are some things that are going to harm it, right? So, Bhakti Lata Beach is very tender. So, like any creeper requires a lot of care, this creeper also requires a lot of care. And why do we need to care for this creeper? Because the ultimate goal for any devotee is to finally reach that level of devotion where we are able to, totally give ourselves at the lotus feet of Lord Krishna. So, like we have read in yesterday's section, that this creeper finally grows and grows and grows and reaches the spiritual planet. And that is the ultimate objective, right? To make our devotion grow to the level of pure bhakti. So, Shravanam and Kirtanam, yesterday we heard, is very, very important to, because that is the watering of the plant. No creeper, no plant can grow if it is not watered, right? So, Shravanam and Kirtanam is very, very important. And today we will read some other things that are going to be favorable for the growth of this creeper, and some important aspects which are going to harm our creeper to a very great extent. Those are the things that we have to be very careful, and we have to be very, very strict to avoid those things. So, just to recap, I'll read the translation of yesterday's verse number 154. Being situated in one's heart and being watered by Shravan Kirtan, the Bhakti creeper grows more and more. In this way, it attains the shelter of the desired tree of the lotus feet of Krishna, who is eternally situated in the planet known as Goloka Vrindavan, in the topmost region of the spiritual sky. So that is the ultimate abode where we want our creeper of devotional service to reach. Okay. So we'll read today's verses. Chandana Mataji, you want to start?
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandvat Pranams. ताहे ताहा विस्तारितया फले प्रेम फला इह मालि सेचे नित्या श्रवणादि जला. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. The creeper greatly expands in the Goloka Vrindavana planet, and there it produces the fruit of love for Krishna. Although remaining in the material world, the gardener regularly sprinkles the creeper with the water of hearing and chanting. Should I read the purport also, Mataji?
Yes, Mataji, please.
Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. 1 second. Yes. In Goloka Vrindavana, the devotees have very intimate relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The devotee engages in the Lord's service in great ecstatic love. Such love was exhibited personally by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in his teachings to the people of the material world. The fruit of the devotional creeper is the pure desire to serve and please the senses of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. कृष्णेन्द्रिय प्रीति इच्छा धरे प्रेम नाम. Chaitanya Charitamrita Adilila 4.165. In the spiritual world, one has no desire other than to please the senses of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The conditioned soul within the material world can neither understand nor appreciate how a pure devotee in the material world can render confidential service to the Lord out of feelings of ecstatic love and always engage in pleasing the Supreme Lord's senses. Although seen within the material world, the pure devotee always engage in the confidential service of the Lord. An ordinary neophyte devotee cannot realize this. Therefore, it is said, Vaishnavera Kriya Mudra Vigneha Na Bujhaya. The activities of a pure Vaishnava cannot be understood even by a learned scholar in the material world. Every living entity is wandering within the universe in different species and on different planetary systems according to his fruitive activities. Out of millions of living entities, one may be fortunate enough to receive the seed of the Bhakti Lata, the creeper or devotional service. By the grace of the spiritual master and Krishna, one nourishes the Bhakti Lata by regularly sprinkling it with the water of Shravana, Kirtana, hearing and chanting. In this way, the seed of the Bhaktilata sprouts and grows up and up through the whole universe until it penetrates the covering of the material universe and reaches the spiritual world. The Bhaktilata continues to grow until it reaches the topmost planetary system, Goloka Vrindavana, where Krishna lives. There, the creeper takes shelter at the lotus feet of the Lord, and that is its final destination. At that time, the creeper begins to grow the fruits of ecstatic love of God. It is the duty of the devotee who nourishes the creeper to be very careful. It is said that the watering of the creeper must continue. Iha mali seche nitya shravanadi jala. It is not that at a certain stage one can stop chanting and hearing and become a mature devotee. If one stops, one certainly falls down from devotional service. Although one may be very much exalted in devotional service, he should not give up the watering process of Shravana Kirtana. If one gives up that process, it is due to an offense. This is described in the following verse. Thank you, Mataji. Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna. Thank you so much, Mataji. So in this verse, it is mentioned that how the creeper of bhakti, how the bhakti lata grows and grows, and then it is mentioned that the creeper greatly expands in the Golok Vrindavan planet, and there it produces the fruit of love for Krishna. So the creeper grows and grows, and finally it reaches the ultimate position at the lotus feet of Lord Krishna, and then it produces the fruits. What is the fruit of this creeper? It is love for Krishna, Krishna Prem. And even though the gardener is still in the material world, the gardener regularly sprinkles the creeper with the water of hearing and chanting. So, maintaining regularity in hearing and chanting is of utmost importance. Okay, so Prabhupada in his very beautiful purport is explaining that in Goloka Vrindavan, the devotees have very intimate relationships with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Okay, all the all the jivas have a connection with the Supreme Lord. Everyone is linked to the Supreme Lord. There is some rasa or the other in which we are attached to Lord Krishna. Now the problem is that we have forgotten our relationship with Krishna, and through this process of bhakti, we are trying to revive it. So then Prabhupada is mentioning that the devotees engage in the Lord's service in great ecstatic love, and such love was sorry, such love was exhibited personally by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in his teachings to the people of the material world. Okay, so now and then again, the fruit of the devotional creeper is the pure desire to serve and please the senses of the Supreme Lord. So that the focus shifts from satisfaction of our senses to satisfaction of Krishna's sense, making Krishna happy. And then Prabhupada is mentioning that the conditioned souls, the Baddhatmas, who are within this material world, they can neither understand nor appreciate how a pure devotee in the material world can render confidential service to the Lord out of feelings of ecstatic love and always engage in pleasing the Lord's senses. So that is the problem. The non-devotees, who do not have this knowledge about bhakti, they are not able to understand the sentiments of a pure devotee. How being in the material world, the focus of the devotee has shifted to satisfaction of Krishna's senses. Okay? Although the devotees, we see them in the material world, they are doing the normal activities also, but the intention is totally different because They are doing all the activities for Krishna's pleasure and not for their own sense gratification. Then Prabhupada is mentioning that the activities of a pure Vaishnav cannot be understood even by a learned scholar in the material world. Vaishnavera Kriya Namudra Vigneha na Bujhai. It is very difficult to understand the activities of pure devotees. Only one who has these sentiments for Krishna will be able to understand that. Then Prabhupada mentions that, there are millions of living entities in different species, in different planetary systems, and according to their actions, according to their karma, they are wandering from one birth to the other. Now, out of these millions, one may be fortunate enough to receive the seed of Bhakti Lata. One may be fortunate to receive the Bhakti Lata beach. So we have to understand that if we are getting a chance to chant Krishna's names, this Hare Krishna Mahamantra, if we are getting a chance to attend these classes about Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, other great scriptures, if we get a chance to associate with devotees, how fortunate we are. This is something that we have to remind ourselves and again and again, because these days, because it is so easily available, the temples at Prabhupada's mercy, there are temples in every place. It's growing so much. ISKCON has centers all over the world. Books are so easily available that sometimes there is a possibility that we might take it for granted. But we have to understand that we are very, very fortunate. Out of millions, one soul gets a chance to come to Krishna consciousness. So we have to understand that this is by Srila Prabhupada's grace and grace of our Guru and by Krishna's mercy. So this beach that we have received, we have to nourish it by regularly sprinkling it with hearing and chanting. So we don't have to give this hearing and chanting up at all. It is very, very important for the Bhakti Lata beach to grow. And when it sprouts and grows up and up, it grows up throughout the whole universe till it penetrates the covering of the material universe and reaches the spiritual world. That is how the Bhakti Lata grows. And it grows till it reaches Golok Vrindavan where Krishna lives. And at the lotus feet of the Lord, the creeper takes shelter, and that is its final destination. And then the creeper grows fruits, which is love of Krishna. So it is the duty of the devotee who nourishes the creeper to be very careful. We'll see in today's this purport and the purports that are going to follow. Prabhupada is warning us again and again to not take this lightly, because the moment we start taking this lightly, we'll become complacent, and that's when all the offenses will start coming in, and then it will completely dry out the creeper. So that is why Prabhupada is warning us again and again that it's not that at a certain stage that, I can start feeling that, okay, now I have got lot of bhakti, so I can stop chanting, I can stop hearing, because I have become a very mature devotee now and I can stop the hearing and chanting. No. Prabhupada says it is not that at a certain stage one can stop chanting and hearing. If one stops, one certainly falls down from devotional service. So that is why we should never stop hearing and chanting. Although one may be very much exalted in devotional service, he should not give up the watering process of Shravan Kirtan. If one gives up, it is due to an offense, which we are going to read in the next verse. So we must have seen, right? Very advanced devotees also. You see the sannyasis in ISKCON also, in yatras or in temples, if you're fortunate, we may have had darshan of them during the chanting time. And you must have seen how much focus they chant with. They will be there for Mangalarti, they will be there for chanting, and they also will be hearing, they also are reading so much. Once His Holiness Radhanath Swami Maharaj had said that he spends about 5 to 6 hours for preparing for one class. Just imagine, at their level of devotion also, at their level of pure bhakti also, they are hearing, they are chanting. So we have to understand. It's not that at some level we are chanting only till we reach a particular level, after which we have to stop. No, chanting and hearing Shavanam and Kirtanam has to continue throughout. Prabhupada was once asked that, what do you aim to achieve with this chanting? And Prabhupada said, more chanting, So it's not like when we reach at certain level, we have to stop chanting. No, chanting has to continue. In fact, we have to try and improve the level of our chanting, the quality of our chanting. So bhakti is a constant, it's a very dynamic process. It's not like it'll become stagnant at a certain point. No, we have to endeavor to perfect ourselves more and more, improve ourselves more and more. That should be our focus. Okay. Now let's go to the next verse. Sumati Mataji, you want to read 156?
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavad Pranams.
Dandavad Pranam.
यदि वैष्णवापराधा उठे हाथी माता उपाडे वा चिंदे तारा शुकी आया पाता. Translation by His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. If the devotee commits an offense at the feet of a Vaishnava while cultivating the creeper of devotional service in the material world, this offense is compared to a mad elephant that uproots the creeper and breaks it. In this way, the leaves of the creeper are dried up. Should I continue, Mataji? Purport?
Yes, Mataji, please read the purport.
Yes, Mataji. Purport. One's devotional attitude increases in the association of a Vaishnava. Tandera charana sevi bhakta sane vasa janame haya abhilasha. By his personal example, Narottama Dasa Thakura stresses that a devotee must always remember to please his predecessor Acharya. The Goswamis are represented by one spiritual master. One cannot be an Acharya, spiritual master, without following strictly in the disciplic succession of the Acharyas. One who is actually serious about advancing in devotional service should desire only to satisfy the previous Acharyas. Ei chaya gosani yara mui tara dasa. One should always think of oneself as a servant of the Acharyas, and thinking this, one should live in the society of Vaishnavas. However, if one thinks that he has become very mature and can live separate from the association of Vaishnavas and thus gives up all the regulative principles due to offending a Vaishnava, one's position becomes very dangerous. Offenses against the holy name are explained in Adi Lila, chapter 8, verse 24. Giving up the regulative principles and living according to one's whims is compared to a mad elephant which by force uproots the Bhakti Lata and breaks it to pieces. In this way, the Bhakti Lata shrivels up. Such an offense is especially created when one disobeys the instructions of the spiritual master. This is called Guru Avatnya. The devotee must therefore be very careful not to commit offenses against the spiritual master by disobeying his instructions. As soon as one is deviated from the instructions of the spiritual master, the uprooting of the Bhakti Lata begins and gradually all the leaves dry up. Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji. So very, very important section because Prabhupada is explaining about the offenses and the most dangerous offenses. We all know that there are 10 offenses against the chanting of the holy name. But, devotees explain that out of these, disobeying the orders of the spiritual master, blaspheming of devotees, these are, very, very dangerous offenses. And that's why it's mentioned here that if a devotee commits an offense at the feet of a Vaishnava while cultivating the creeper of devotional service in the material world, his offense is compared to a mad elephant that uproots the creeper and breaks it. In this way, the leaves of the creeper are dried up. So this is called that mad elephant, offense, because a mad elephant does not see what it's doing. It's not able to control itself, and what it does is whatever comes in its way, uproots the creepers, breaks everything. So that is what happens to the Bhakti Lata if we commit any offenses towards the Vaishnavas. So Prabhupada is quoting these lines from the Hariharai Nama song by Srila Narottam Das Thakur, that how important it is to, remember to please the predecessor acharyas, to please the senior devotees, please our gurus. And Prabhupada mentioning in the purport that one cannot be an acharya without following strictly in the disciplic succession of the acharyas. And if one is serious about advancing in devotional service, then we should desire, they should desire only to satisfy the previous acharyas. So that is why disciplic succession is stressed so greatly, right? We are on our altars also, we have the pictures of all of the Guru Parampara. Why is that? To constantly remind ourselves that whatever we have received is by their mercy. How one Acharya took the message without changing it, without distorting it, and passed it on to the next Guru in the line. And that is how we have received this knowledge. So we have to be so grateful to the Acharyas in our line because they have brought this knowledge to us. And one should always think oneself as a servant of the Acharyas, and thinking this. Now, this is very important. Thinking this, one should live in the society of Vaishnava. We'll see how Prabhupada is stressing this so much. And at his time, and also Prabhupada was physically present, he would stress this many times that come what may, there may be problems, there may be disturbances, there may be difficulties, inconveniences, but we should never leave the association of Vaishnavas. What happens is that if we give up the association of Vaishnavas, then the problem is that we may think that, okay, now I have sufficient knowledge and now I don't need to live in the association of Vaishnavas. And one in thus thinking separates oneself from the association, thinking that, okay, my bhajan will improve if I stay away from the Vaishnavas. But the problem is that if we do that, if we go away from the association of Vaishnavas, then gradually the regulative principles, we give them up also, because offenses to Vaishnavas come up. And this position, Prabhupada is saying that it is very dangerous. One's position becomes very dangerous. Offenses against the holy name are explained in Adi Lila, and giving up the regulative principles and living according to one's whims is compared to a mad elephant which by force uproots the Bhakti Lata and breaks it to pieces. So by so much difficulty, out of millions of souls, one soul gets this Bhakti Lata beach, and then the devotee starts nurturing this through Shravan and Kirtan. But if we start thinking that I don't need to be in the association of devotees, I can live independently, I know enough, I'll be able to do my bhajan alone. If we start thinking and go away from the association of devotees, then gradually we'll see that offenses against Vaishnavas come up, and then our four regulative principles break. And this, when we are doing this, what we are doing is we are being a mad elephant who is uprooting the creepers. And then when the creeper is uprooted, gradually the Bhakti Lata will shrivel up. And such an offense is especially created when one disobeys the instructions of the spiritual master. So we have to be very, very careful. We have to be very, very stern that whatever promises we have made to our Guru, whatever instructions our Guru Maharaj has given to us, should be very, very focused to follow that. And so Prabhupada says that the devotee must therefore be very careful not to commit offenses against the spiritual master by disobeying his instructions. So the instructions of the spiritual master should be our life and soul. We should never disobey them at any cost. As soon as one is deviated from the instructions of the spiritual master, the uprooting of the Bhakti Lata begins and gradually all the leaves dry up. So if we start thinking that, oh, what is the big deal if out of four, just one principle I break, one small promise I break, what is the big difference? That is the beginning of uprooting of the Bhakti Lata. And all this starts when we get this independent mentality, when we start thinking that we are able to take the decisions ourselves. So that is, Prabhupada is saying, that is a very dangerous position. Now, why would one want to leave the association of devotees? Because initially we come to Krishna consciousness because of the association of devotees, right? Some merciful devotee, he maybe gave us a Bhagavad Gita or another book, or called us to the temple, and by some devotee's mercy, we went one day and We got this most wonderful gift of Krishna consciousness. But then gradually, why did this mentality come in our mind that we should leave the association of devotees? Because sometimes it happens, it is natural that devotees will have different temperaments, they will have different natures, they will have different behaviors. So sometimes we start feeling disturbed due to these problems which come in a temple or in any association, in any congregation. So then we start feeling that, oh, this is very, very disturbing. So I don't want to be in this disturbance. Let me move out. Let me make my own ashram and let me be alone and do bhajan. Now, being alone, if we are thinking that that is going to help us, being alone, being away from devotees, then we are very wrong. Because if we are alone, then there is a possibility of us losing our good character. Because there is lack of association, then what are we associating with? We are associating with our unclean mind. We have to understand that if we are still in this material world and we are still bound, that means our mind is still not fully clean. If we leave the association of devotees, then we are going into the association of our unclean mind. Okay? So there is no one to give us good guidance, there is no one to correct us, and then there is a possibility that we might return to the material life. Okay? So ego clashes may be there, disagreements might be there, but one should never leave the association of devotees. That is very, very important. If we keep telling ourselves that no matter what, this is Prabhupada's home. Prabhupada built this home in which all the whole world can live, the entire world can live. Prabhupada made this for us. If I'm leaving this association, if I'm leaving the temple, that means I'm leaving Prabhupada's home. And no matter what, we have to stay in Prabhupada's home. That is our shelter. That is going to keep us together. Like, for example, if we are in an ocean, which is very turbulent, and there is a boat which is going to take us out of this ocean. Now, in this boat, there will be turbulence, right? This boat is not going to be peaceful because it is in the turbulent sea. So the impact may be felt in the boat. But the fact is that this is the boat which is going to take us out of the ocean. If we leave this boat, then we are out in the ocean, and then who knows what's going to happen to us. That is the boat of Krishna consciousness. Yes, there may be some problems at times, but this is the boat that is going to take us out. And this boat is a much safer place than the ocean. Being with devotees is a much safer place than being with materialistic people. So that's why we have to be in this boat. We have to be in the association of devotees. And then this offense about Guru Avagya, that will cause our bhakti lata to dry up. What happens is, if we disobey the Guru, we start disobeying the Guru, then gradually our devotional emotions, our motivations, our inclinations, that ecstasy, that enthusiasm we used to feel, the realizations which we would have had, they will gradually go away. So it is very, very risky. So that is what, the first offense and the third offense is being talked about, the blasphemy of devotees and disobeying the orders of the spiritual master. That is very, very strongly highlighted. And this line, that giving up the regulative principles and living according to one's whims, is compared to a mad elephant. Very, very important line. It is compared to a mad elephant, which by force uproots the bhakti lata and breaks it to pieces. Okay, so we have to be very careful that we don't end up doing this. So if one breaks the four regulative principles, acts according to one's own whims, then he loses all good fortune. Everything is lost if we start taking these things lightly and start breaking these rules. So Srila Prabhupada is giving us a warning. And why do the regulative principles start getting broken? Because of Guru Avagya and Vaishnava Aparadha. So that is why we are supposed to recite the 10 offenses every day. It is not a ritual that we are doing. It is not something mechanical. We are reciting it every day because we have to remind ourselves that we have to be very careful not to do this. Otherwise, we may be spending time chanting 16 or more rounds, but we are actually cutting the creeper, uprooting the creeper if we are doing Guru Avagya, if we are doing offenses against the Vaishnavas. We have to be very, very careful. Sudha Mataji, you want to read?
Yes, Mother. Hare Krishna. Pranams. ताकि माली यत्त करी करे आवरण अपराधा हस्तिरा याइचे नहय उद्गमा. Translation by purport by Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada ki Jai. The gardener must defend the creeper by fencing it all around so that the powerful elephant of offenses may not enter. Purport. While the bhakti creeper is growing, the devotee must protect it by fencing it all around. The neophyte must be protected by being surrounded by pure devotees. In this way, he will not give the maddened elephant a chance to uproot his bhakti creeper. When one associates with non-devotees, the maddened elephant is set loose. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has said, Asat Sanga Tyaga, Ei Vaishnava Achar. The first business of a Vaishnava is to give the company of is to give up the company of non-devotees. A so-called mature devotee, however, commits a great offense by giving up the company of pure devotee. The human being is a social animal, and if one gives up the society of pure devotees, he must associate with non-devotees, a satsang. By contacting non-devotees and engaging in non-devotional activities, a so-called mature devotee will fall victim to the mad elephant offense. Whatever growth has taken place is quickly uprooted by such an offense. One should therefore be very careful to defend the creeper by fencing it in, that is, by following the regulative principles and associating with pure devotees. Even if one thinks that there are many pseudo devotees or non devotees in the Krishna conscious society, still one should stick to the society if one thinks the society members are not pure devotees. One can keep direct company with the spiritual master, and if there is any doubt, one should consult the spiritual master. However, unless one follows the spiritual master's instructions concerning the regulative principles and chanting and hearing the holy name of the Lord, one cannot become a pure devotee. By one's mental concoctions, one falls down. By associating with non-devotee, one breaks the regulative principles and is thereby lost. In the Upadeshamrita of Srila Rupa Goswami, it is said, Atyahara prayasascha prajalpo niyamagraha janasangascha laulyam cha shadbir bhaktir vinashyati. One's devotional service is spoiled when he becomes too entangled in the following 6 activities: eating more than necessary or collecting more funds than required, over endeavoring for mundane things that are very difficult to attain, talking unnecessarily about mundane subjects, about mundane subject matters, practicing the scriptural rules and regulations only for the sake of following them and not for the sake of spiritual advancement, or rejecting the rules and regulations of the scriptures and working independently or whimsically, associating with worldly minded persons who are not interested in Krishna consciousness, and 6, being greedy for mundane achievements. Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna. So here the Lord is describing that, okay, we have read that the mad elephant, what it does, it uproots the creeper. So what is the way to protect? That is the natural thing. The Lord is explaining that the gardener must defend the creeper by fencing it all around so that the powerful elephant of offenses may not enter. So we have to make a fence around, right, to protect, because the creeper is very, very, very tender. So we have to protect it from this mad elephant. How do we do that? How do we ensure that this powerful elephant doesn't come and uproot the creeper? We have to make a fence. Now, what is that fence? That Prabhupada is explaining in the purport. So Prabhupada is saying that the neophyte devotee must be protected by being surrounded by pure devotees. That is the way to protect. In this way, the maddened elephant does not get a chance to uproot the bhakti creeper. So when one associates with non-devotees, the maddened elephant is set loose. Okay, so Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, that's why has said, Asat Sangha Tyaga E Vaishnavacharya. We have to give up the company of non-devotees And Prabhupada is then saying that a so-called mature devotee, however, commits a great offense by giving up the company of pure devotees. So someone may think that, okay, now I have spent so many years in Krishna consciousness, now I know all the basics and I can chant on my own and I don't need the association of devotees because, I don't agree with these devotees or I'm having ego clashes or I don't like the environment of this Sangha. And they give up the association of devotees and then what happens is the elephant is let loose. Because why does this happen? Because Prabhupada is saying that a human being is a social animal. In some way or the other, we will need some social interaction. Now, if we don't have this social interaction with devotees, we'll end up having this social interaction with non-devotees. And when we are in the association of devotees, we get inspired by what they are doing, and then we start doing those activities. And then the opposite is also true. If we start associating with non-devotees, then we'll get inspired by what they are doing. And so because of this contact with non-devotees, one starts engaging in non-devotional activities. And thus, such a devotee falls victim to the mad elephant offense, and whatever growth may have taken place is quickly uprooted. So one should therefore be very careful to defend the creeper by fencing it in. So Prabhupada clearly explains what is this fence. It means following the regulative principles and associating with pure devotees. Now, associating with pure devotees, what does it mean? It means that we have to serve these devotees. We have to ask them questions. We have to hear from them. We have to, whatever doubts may be coming in our mind, we have to clarify them with these devotees. So hearing, getting their advice, reporting to them, and serving them, all these come in association. Now, in our work, in our families, there may be many non-devotees that we come across, right? So how do we say, do we completely cut off with all these people? Oh, that is the difference. What is association? Association means where there is an exchange of ideas, where there is an exchange of thoughts, where we get influenced by the other person. So yes, we may be meeting so many people in our day-to-day life, but we have to be very careful. Who are those people whose thoughts, whose activities are actually influencing? Those people should only be devotees. We should be taking advice, exchanging our thoughts, getting influenced only by devotees. That is what we have to be very, very careful about. And then Prabhupada says, even if one thinks, this is very, very important. See, Prabhupada, at that time itself, he has written, even if one thinks that there are many pseudo devotees or non devotees in the Krishna consciousness society, still one should stick to the society. If one thinks the society's members are not pure devotees, one can keep direct company with the spiritual master. And if there is any doubt, one should consult the spiritual master. So, yes, just by a dress, we cannot know who is a Vaishnav, like just wearing a dhoti kurta or just wearing a sari or gopi dress does not make one a devotee. So yes, we may be meeting so many people whose thoughts we may not be totally agreeing with. We may feel that, I'm not getting very inspired with this person's company. That may happen. In that case, what do we have to do? We can have contact with our spiritual master, and spiritual master is always there to guide us. Yes, we may not be able to personally speak with them, but through their other disciples, through our senior god brothers, god sisters, we can always stay in the association of our Guru Maharaj. So that connection should always be maintained. So Prabhupada says, by one's mental concoction, one falls down. So we don't have to concoct, okay, this happened, so that must be the reason. Okay, I don't need to do this, I don't need to follow that, I know enough. These mental concoctions will cause our fall down. So that is something we have to totally keep away from ourselves. And in the Updeshamrit, in the Nectar of Instruction, Srila Rupa Goswami has mentioned these 6 items, which totally spoil our bhakti. What are those 6 activities? Eating more than necessary or collecting more funds than required, over endeavoring for mundane things that are difficult to attain, talking unnecessarily about mundane subject matters, that is prajalpa, practicing the scriptural rules and regulations only for the sake of following them and not for the sake of spiritual advancement, or even rejecting the rules and regulations of the scriptures and working independently or whimsically, associating with worldly minded persons who are not interested in Krishna consciousness, and being greedy for mundane achievements. So that is why, our acharyas have warned us against these things. These are the things that totally cut down our devotional practices. So we have to be very, very careful. And again, just to recap, we have to make a fence around. And what is that fence? It is the fence of following the regulative principles and associating with devotees. Association of advanced devotees means hearing from them, reporting to them, taking advice from them, inquiring from them, serving them, and gaining nourishment through that. When we are in the association of pure devotees, we'll naturally feel that we are gaining nourishment, because every time we get into that sangha, we get motivated to do more and to improve the quality of what we are doing. But if one gives up the society of pure devotees, then we are associating with non-devotees, and that is asat sangha. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has said that we have to do asat sangha tyag. We have to give up that association of non-devotees. And associating with devotees will be followed by devotional activities. And in the same way, associating with non-devotees will be followed by non-devotional activities. Okay, so this fencing is very, very important. We have to be very strong no matter what happens. We have to never leave ISKCON. We have to put aside our personal prejudices, because wherever there are devotees, there is Krishna. We have to understand this, right? Krishna says that wherever my devotees are singing my glories, I am present there. So that is such a great thing. One place where devotees are singing Krishna's glories, maybe there is some imperfection, but Krishna is present there. Compared to a place where there is no talk about Krishna and there is just talk about sense gratification. Our choice has to be being in the association of devotees. So this mental concoction, our mental prejudices, we have to keep them away. Because if we go away from the temple and the association and the sangha, then we'll be associating with our unclean mind. So that's why Prabhupada is also quoting from Srila Rupa Goswami's Upadeshamrit to help us remember what are the activities that are going to nourish our creeper of bhakti. Okay. Now let's go to 158. Would someone like to read?
Yes,
Hare
Mataji. Hare
Yes.
Krishna, Mary.
Please read.
Hare Bol.
Hare Krishna.
Pranams Mataji, 19.158. किंतु यदि लतारा संगे उक्ति उपशाखा भुक्ति मुक्ति वांछयता अशंक्या तारलेखा. Translation and by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Sometimes unwanted creepers, such as the creepers of desires for material enjoyment and liberation from the material world, grow along with the creeper of devotional service. The varieties of such unwanted creepers are unlimited. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji. So Sindhu Mataji, everything is fine. Things are getting normal in Chennai now.
Yes, Mataji, sort of, yes, not fully.
Difficult
One
time.
by one, it is slowly getting back to form today.
We'll continue our prayers, Mataji.
Hare Bol. Thank you, Mataji.
So in this verse, there is a talk about the weeds. You must have seen, if you're into gardening, that whenever we are trying to grow a plant, there are some other, plants which we did not even plant. They start growing. And it is very important to take them out, because they stop the main plant from getting the nourishment. Those are the weeds, the unwanted creepers. So the Lord is saying that sometimes unwanted creepers, such as the creepers of desires for material enjoyment and liberation from the material world, grow along with the creeper of devotional service. The varieties of such unwanted creepers are unlimited. So these weeds are unlimited. We can never be complacent that, okay, now I have started chanting, now everything is going to be totally smooth. No, we have to be alert at every step, because while we are nourishing the creeper of devotional service, there are some unwanted creepers that also get nourished. And we have to be very careful to uproot them. And some examples of these creepers are desire for material enjoyment and liberation from material world. So, these are some examples, and we'll read more about this in the coming verse. Okay. Someone like to read? Sindhu Mataji, you want to continue with this verse also?
Yes, Mataji. Sure, Mataji.
Okay.
19.159. Nishidhachara Kyutinati Jiva Himsana Labha Puja Pratishtadi Yata Upashaka Gana. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Some unnecessary creepers growing with the Bhakti creeper are the creepers of behavior unacceptable for those trying to attain perfection, diplomatic behavior, animal killing, mundane profiteering, mundane adoration, and mundane importance. All these are unwanted creepers. Purport, shall I read, Mataji?
Yes, Mataji, please read.
There is a certain pattern of behavior prescribed for those actually trying to become perfect. In our Krishna conscious movement, we advise our students not to eat meat, not to gamble, not to engage in illicit sex, and not to indulge in intoxication. People who indulge in these activities can never become perfect. Therefore, these regulative principles are for those interested in becoming perfect and going back to Godhead. Cutinati or diplomatic behavior cannot satisfy the Atma, the soul. It cannot even satisfy the body or the mind. The culprit mind is always suspicious. Therefore, our dealing should always be straightforward and approved by Vedic authorities. If we treat people diplomatically or duplicitously, our spiritual advancement is obstructed. Jiva Himsana refers to the killing of animals or to envy of other living entities. The killing of poor animals is undoubtedly due to the envy of those animals. The human form is meant for the understanding of Krishna consciousness, Atato Brahma Jignasha, for inquiring about the Supreme Brahman. The human form, everyone has a chance to understand the Supreme Brahman. The so-called leaders of human society do not know the real aim of human life and are therefore busy with economic development. This is misleading. Every state and every society is busy trying to improve the qualities of eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. This human form of life is meant for more than these four animal principles. Eating, sleeping, mating, and defending are problems found in the animal kingdom, and the animals have solved these problems without difficulty. Why should human society be so busy trying to solve these problems? The difficulty is that people are not educated to understand this simple philosophy. They think that advancement of civilization means increasing sense gratification. Shall I continue? There are many. Haribol.
Yes, Mataji, please.
There are many religious propagandists who do not know how the ultimate problems of life can be solved, but they also try to educate people in the form of sense gratification. This is also Jiva Himsana. Real knowledge is not given, and religionists mislead the general populace. As far as material profits are concerned, one should know that whatever material profit one has must be abandoned at the time of death. Unfortunately, people do not know that there is life after death. Therefore, mundane people waste their time amazing material profit, which has to be left behind at the time of death. Such profit has no eternal benefit. Similarly, adoration by mundane people is valueless because after death, one has to accept another body. Material adoration and titles are decorations that cannot be carried over to the next body. In the next life, everything is forgotten. All these obstructions have been described in this verse as unwanted creepers. They simply present obstacles for the real creeper, the Bhakti Lata. One should be very careful to avoid all these unwanted things. Sometimes these unwanted creepers look exactly like the Bhakti creeper. They appear to be of the same size or of the same species when they are packed together with the Bhakti creeper. But in spite of this, the creepers are called Upashaka. A pure devotee can distinguish between the Bhakti creeper and the mundane creeper. And he is very alert to distinguish them and keep them separate.
Okay. Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Mataji.
Thank you.
So, the different type of weeds, the different type of unnecessary creepers are described here. These are the creepers of behavior unacceptable for those trying to attain perfection. So what are those? Diplomatic behavior, animal killing, mundane profiteering, mundane adoration, and mundane importance. All these are unwanted creepers. So Prabhupada is explaining that there is a certain pattern of behavior prescribed for those actually trying to become perfect. Now, if there's someone who is training for becoming a master in a particular sport, then there will be some do's and don'ts for them, right? There will be a diet prescribed for them. There will be a certain practice regime that they will be following because they want to become good in a particular line of sport. In the same way, if someone is trying to become a devotee of Krishna, there will be a certain set of do's and don'ts. So that's what Prabhupada is saying, that there are 4 regulative principles and there is chanting. We have to follow these activities. Prabhupada says people who indulge in these activities, that is the 4 no's, the 4 don'ts, we don't have to do the regulative principles. Those people who indulge in these activities can never become perfect, and therefore these regulative principles are for those interested in becoming perfect and going back to Godhead. Then Prabhupada explains what is putinati. Putinati is diplomatic behavior, because that is duplicitous behavior, where we are not completely clear about what we are inside, and then we say something else outside, and that behavior is not very clean. So that's what Prabhupada is saying, that it cannot satisfy the Atma or the soul, not even the body or the mind. The culprit mind is always suspicious, and so our dealings should always be very straightforward. So we should not be in 2 ways, that we say something, do something, feel something, say something else. No, the dealings should be very straightforward, very clean. Then Jeev Himsa, killing of, that refers to killing of the animals as well as envy of other living entities. That is also something that we have to be very, very careful about. Every soul has a particular journey, has a particular life, and if we end that life because we want to satisfy our tongue, that is very, very wrong. So Prabhupada is saying that the so-called leaders of human society, they don't know the real of human life, and they're just trying to make the economic development better, and they are misleading. They're just trying to improve the quality of the eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. And a human life is meant for much more than that. That is just for animals. So why should human society be so busy to try and solve these problems? So that is something that the advancement of civilization is not understanding. Then Prabhupada is saying that there are some religious propagandists who do not know the ultimate problems of life, how they can be solved, and they try to educate people in a form of sense gratification. So that is also Jeev Himsa, because we are not thinking about the ultimate good of a jiva. So that is why that is also called Jiva Himsa. Then material profits, one should know that whatever material profit one has, it will actually go at the time of death. So it is not that it is going to be with us even in the next life. So, and also this soul Prabhupada is saying that this profit has no eternal benefit. So we should not run behind it. Then adoration by mundane people is valueless, because after death, one has to accept another body. People who were so famous 10, 20, 30 years ago, now people don't even remember them. So what is the value of this material adoration? It doesn't get carried to the next body. So Prabhupada says that all these are obstructions, these are unwanted creepers to the real creeper. And one should be very careful to avoid all these unwanted things, because they will look of the same size. They will look, they will appear similar to the bhakti creeper. But in spite of this, the creepers are called upashakha. They are unwanted creepers. So a pure devotee can distinguish between the bhakti creeper and a mundane creeper, and he's very alert to distinguish them and keep them separate. So the weeds, the unwanted creepers, have to be kept aside. Now let's quickly read this verse also, and we'll close for today. 19.160. Would someone like to read? Okay, let me read. Seka jala pana upa shaka badi aya, sabda hana mula shaka badi te na paya. If one does not distinguish between the bhakti creeper and the other creepers, the sprinkling of water is misused because the other creepers are nourished while the bhakti creeper is curtailed. So if we are not able to distinguish which is actually our creeper of devotion and which are the unwanted creepers or the weeds, then we'll nourish the weeds also. And if the weeds are getting, the unwanted creepers are getting nourishment, then the bhakti creepers growth is curtailed. Okay. So Prabhupada here mentions that if one chants the Hare Krishna mantra while committing offenses, these unwanted creepers will grow. That is why we are told that we have to be very careful to avoid offenses. Because if we are chanting, yes, that is a very good activity. But we are not careful to avoid the offenses, then what are we doing? We are nourishing the unwanted creepers. And one should not take advantage of chanting the Hare Krishna mantra for some material profit. As mentioned in verse 159, Nishedhachara kutinati jiva himsana labha puja pratishtadi yata upshaka gana. This is what we read in the previous verse. The unwanted creepers have been described by Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. He states that if one hears and chants without trying to give up offenses, one becomes materially attached to sense gratification. One may also desire freedom from material bondage like the Mayavadis, or one may become attached to the yoga siddhis and desire wonderful yogic powers. If one is attached to wonderful material activities, one is called siddhi lobhi, greedy for material perfection. One may also be victimized by diplomatic or crooked behavior, or one may associate with women for illicit sex. One may make a show of devotional service like the Prakritya Sahajyas, or one may try to support his philosophy by joining some caste or identifying himself with a certain dynasty claiming a monopoly on spiritual advancement. Thus, with the support of family tradition, one may become a pseudo guru or so-called spiritual master. So there are many things that may happen. We may desire material sense gratification. We may desire liberation like the Mayavadis. We may desire yogic siddhis, you know, or we may think that, okay, just because I'm born in a particular family, we get a right over religion, or one may make a show of devotional service, not being fully advanced but making a show of bhakti. In this way, people may become pseudo gurus or spiritual master. One may become attached to the four sinful activities, that is, meat eating, intoxication, gambling, and illicit sex. Or one may consider a Vaishnava to belong a mundane caste or creed. When we start judging a Vaishnava by the color of their skin or their birth, one may think this is a Hindu Vaishnava or this is a European Vaishnava. European Vaishnavas are not allowed to enter the temples. In other words, one may consider Vaishnavas in terms of birth, thinking one a Brahmin Vaishnava, another a Shudra Vaishnava, another a Mlecha Vaishnava, and so on. So one may start discriminating between Vaishnavas themselves depending upon their birth. One may also try to carry out a professional business by means of chanting the Hare Krishna mantra or reading Srimad Bhagavatam, or one may try to increase his monetary strength by illegal means. Also, one may become a cheap Vaishnava by trying to chant in a secluded place for material adoration, or one may desire mundane reputation by making compromises with non-devotees concerning one's philosophy or spiritual life, or one may become a supporter of a hereditary caste system. So bhakti doesn't come in a caste system. The person who is practicing bhakti completely is a Vaishnava. Doesn't matter, what their birth was. And then there are people who will just try to chant in a solitary place to get some adoration or make a business of, reciting Bhagavatam or doing kirtan. All these are to be avoided. All these are pitfalls of personal sense gratification. Just to cheat some innocent people, one makes a show of advanced spiritual life and becomes known as a sadhu, mahatma, or religious person. All this means that the so-called devotee has become victimized by all these unwanted creepers, and that the real creeper, the Bhakti Lata, has been stunted. So if we are going after any of these, adoration or making money out of it, or material sense gratification, cheating innocent people, making a show of being a sadhu, then that means that the growth of the Bhakti Lata has become stunted because we have become victimized by the unwanted creepers, the weeds. Okay, so we'll end there. Any questions or comments? Anyone would like to share something? No? So thank you all. Thank you so much for joining. Vancha kalpatrubhyascha kripa sindhubhyaiva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah. अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय। श्री चैतन्य चरितामृता की जय। श्री कृष्णदास कविराज गोस्वामी की जय। श्रीला प्रभुपाद की जय। श्री गुरु महाराज की जय। Thank you all so much. Hare Krishna. Dandavat pranam.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Mataji.
Mataji.
Thank
Hare
you so much,
Krishna.
Mataji, for the wonderful class.
Thank you. Pranams.
Hari bol. Hare
Pranam.
Krishna.